I think we really need to understand that at its base, technology is not necessarily out for the good of your child. It is reaching and it's trying to grab them, it's trying to expose them, it's trying to educate them, it's trying to indoctrinate them, and it wants you to buy their stuff. And we wouldn't just give them over to every stranger on the street. Don't take candy from a stranger. And there are strangers all over the internet handing out candy, and it's at our kids' peril.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media. And we also ask them questions that we get from parents all over the country in our program. Now let's get back to the interview.
Hi, my name is Brad Mason, and I am the superintendent of Whittier City School District located in Whittier, California. We have 11 schools and a 12th virtual school with roughly 5,500 students making up Whittier City School District.
Superintendent, it's so good to have you here. We've got some very poignant questions for you about keeping kids safe, as you say, protecting their innocence, which I couldn't agree more with. And then also towards the end of the program, I want to talk about some of your parent engagement strategies. But first, you're the author of a couple books. Why don't you hold them up and show us what you authored?
Well, I've got a first one called Charlie Chiluzzi is Often Quite Choosy. And we may talk about that a little bit as we kind of chat through our time today. But it's about a picky little guy that lives in a world that's kind of boxy of his own making until he starts observing the world around him, watching other kids have fun, and he starts asking himself questions. He wonders if he might like more things, if he was willing to just try new stuff. And it turns out, spoiler alert, turns out he likes a whole lot more than he knew.
I think a lot of parents can resonate with that. And then your second one, I don't want to give it away, but it's about the reason to go nap. Right?
Yes.
Things on the other side of the nap. Like
Charlie Chiluzzi is Often Quite Choosy was the first. Charlie Chiluzzi Refuses to Snoozy is the second. And you might pick up on the case that they're rhyming books, but just universal kid themes, just really focusing on just the innocence of kids and the things that all kids struggle with.
Well, we're going to get along just fine because that's a big theme of ours. So Superintendent, I've talked about a couple hundred of your peers, and after all these conversations with other superintendents in 40 or more states, we've heard a consistent trend about keeping kids safe, that protecting that innocence, if you will. And I want you to set me straight, because in Whittier, California, it might be different. Now, full disclosure, everyone, I grew up in Arcadia, California. It's literally a bike ride north. I used to ride through Whittier to exercise in high school and stuff. So we are in each other's backyards. Now, students, Superintendent, we're hearing in many states nationwide are growing up in a digital world filled with powerful tech, AI, social media, but they're lacking the maturity sometimes and that guidance to use it safely. The result in some communities is more student absences, sometimes lower focus, sometimes rising cyberbullying, declining self-esteem, maybe AI misuse in the classroom, and we're also hearing that parents are trying to raise great kids in a world they didn't grow up in, a world where now tech is moving faster than safety policies. Teens know how to hide apps and online behavior, and safety lessons usually come after a crisis. So my question for you, Superintendent, are there any other trends on this topic, this safety topic, keeping kids safe in a fast-moving world that you've seen so we can alert other school districts before they see them?
Yeah, wow. This is a universal topic that is huge, and you kind of can take it from a lot of different directions. And I think it is imperative that we raise good consumers of social media and the internet. However, I think it's even before we start realizing how do we get them to be good consumers and to be safe, I think we really need to understand that at its base, technology is not necessarily out for the good of your child. It is reaching and it's trying to grab them. It's trying to expose them. It's trying to educate them. It's trying to indoctrinate them. And it wants you to buy their stuff. And we wouldn't just give them over to every stranger on the street. Don't take candy from a stranger. And there are strangers all over the internet handing out candy, and it's at our kids' peril.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote that down. If you see me taking notes, I love learning from superintendents like you. Tech isn't out for the good of our child. And that candy thing is so true, right? They're handing out free candy and stuff. Give us an example of something that you've seen. You've been in this role in Whittier, I believe, 3 years or so, or at least in that community. Give us an example of something that you're seeing maybe in the greater Southern California area, some of your peers nationwide. What are some trends on safety that are either alarming, worrisome, or some advice you have for parents on how to keep their kids safe?
Yeah. Again, wow. Where do you go with all of this? It's just so deep and wide, but just access is one. We're chasing it all the time with firewalls and you've got to keep it out in the outer room in the house so you're not in your back bedroom so I can kind of see what's going on and so forth. And it almost embeds a game of catch me if you can as a
Yeah.
child. There's a thrill of the hunt. And kids love hide and go seek. I've got 6 grandbabies that are 6'5", 4'4", 1 and 1, and they love playing hide and go seek, and those things just mature in those behaviors. But when that transfers into, I want to see kind of the things that I want to see, we're always playing catch up as adults to whatever the appetites are of kids, and the more they're exposed to, the more they will be exposed to, and that's why just protecting the innocence of kids is a worthwhile goal and one worth fighting for every ding dong day. And you cannot do it too much or too vigilantly, because once it's lost, it is never regained. That genie does not go back in the bottle.
Agreed. Yeah, catch me if you can. Hide and go seek online. So interesting and so right too. All of our parent listeners listening right now, you might be a parent, you might be a superintendent, or you might be one of the wonderful people right in between. You know what it's like. You hand your kids a maybe, and there's no shame here. You hand your kids an iPad for a little bit of babysitting. That's fine. But when does it end is a good question. And we here at Smart Social try and attack that. One of the things that we do is we get thousands of parent questions a year. And for all of our listeners, a big question we get that we're highlighting in this episode is, hey, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger? We're back over to you, Superintendent, protecting their innocence. So I want everyone on the pod to right now, let's hear from a real student about how she might help a friend recognize red flags.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all little details about what they do and who they are, and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
All right, parents. So remember, if your school district is a partner of ours, we host weekly live parent events and replays online. I used to be one of the #1 top social media safety speakers nationwide, flying around. We now do it from the convenience of your smartphone or your home or office. Join us online in 12 languages. Or we also have teen-led video lessons in the program. You just saw a lot of teens teach in here, and a premium parent newsletter. The neatest part is we do giveaways each week. So if you join one of our world-class events, here's what it looks like if you join. Here's what it can do for your community. This is in New York. You are the one that needs to decide whether it's too much screen time or just right.
But parents and teachers know when it comes to teenagers and social media, that's easier said than done. So, in an effort to protect students from the dangers of being chronically online, schools are doing something you might not expect, asking parents to get online too.
It makes an awareness to parents and students. It also gives them an understanding of some of the warning signs.
That's just one reason why Deron Wilson, an executive director of school engagement, says his district uses the app Smart Social. It's an online app designed to educate parents and students on how to avoid strangers and dangerous situations online.
Kind of like, I want to say, a trap. When you get involved in the cyberbullying, you might start friending somebody on an app, or somebody might say, hey, they might send me your picture.
Smart Social founder Josh Oakes says while there are a lot of things that can and should scare us online, the increased number of parents he is able to reach underscores the importance of growing social gathering spaces online.
Back in the day, I used to be one of the top social media safety speakers nationwide, but I was flying around to certain school districts and they're the best of intentions, but only 20 or 30 parents would show up. We get 10 times the amount of parents to show up, and they want to learn from the convenience of their home or office how to keep their kids safe on social media. They want to ask live questions. They want to learn how to have dialogue starters with their kids that actually get their kids excited about talking with their parents and strengthening that relationship.
Darcy Wertique, Spectrum News.
All right, parents, final little just plug. Remember, when you come to one of these events, there's giveaways. Every Friday, we give away Kindles, 3D printers, and also Bluetooth speakers. We changed that up a little, so come on out. We're going to reward your family with low screen time, high-tech, fun stuff. Each month, we've got different things. And then also, I just want to show everybody, remember, over the summer, we've got the summer streaming sessions. So we're teaching how to shine online on June 17th. This episode will come out just a little after that, but Shine Online is our trademark here at Smart Social. Every kid learns how to brand themselves. It's not just about safety. Reducing arguments with a summer family media plan, avoiding strangers, reducing arguments again, all kinds of, the reducing arguments is a big summer thing. And then we've got all kinds of replays in 12 languages. No one is left behind. And we've got all of next year, or this year and next year figured out. So you can come to all these events. Super exciting. All right, parents. So thanks so much for all the support with your community. Superintendent, we're back with you. Now, in addition to these 200 plus superintendent conversations we've had with all of your peers in 40 plus states, we're so grateful to all. Shout out to all of our other listeners. We've heard from some other communities, and I want you to set me straight. I want you to tell me, hey, not in Whittier. We have little angels flying around. Our children are perfect, Josh. You're talking to the wrong superintendent.
We've
and
heard.
If that is the case,
great.
If that's the case, I want to study you, and we're going to put you on the news. Okay.
Right.
So many parents these days nationwide are feeling overwhelmed trying to keep up with these fast-moving online trends and digital safety risks. And students are finding clever ways to increase their screen time, bend the rules, especially when expectations at school or over the summer significantly differ from. And in addition, we're talking about catch me if you can, hide and go seek online. Your words, right?
Yeah.
So what trends, Superintendent, or pain points are you seeing, mostly during the school year, but you can talk about over the summer, when it comes to parent engagement, getting those parents to come on campus or engage with the school district? Where do you feel families are struggling the most to stay informed or connected?
Yeah, a great question. And I have spent my career in elementary, middle, and high school. And where things get more dangerous, I believe, where the greater threat is for just some really painful, bad decisions and some just heartache taking place, is as the arc of the age of the kid increases, their sophistication increases. And it is a place where I've seen where parents start to pull away thinking that they somehow need to decouple their parenting from being engaged on campus when, man, I was a middle school principal, and there is never a time where you need to be more intentional in your parenting and knowing and being there for your kids. They're still developmentally very childlike, though they're starting to be drawn towards adult type things. And that is the wrong time to decouple and start to pull away, think, well, they need to be adult, they need to learn on their own. And what they need is guidance. What they need is some absolutes. They need us to be parents in their lives, and they need to just tell us that that's not going to be okay. And it doesn't matter what Johnny and Susie and Billy and Bobby are doing. This is what we believe in our household. And on the video that we had watched, online is not the place to go make friends. Let's have people over. Let's do things. Let's join a club. Let's join a team. Let's do things. We are not going to replace two-dimensional, folk online with the opportunity to go meet three-dimensional human beings and engage in true, real, meaningful friendships. And online is a lot like when kids are feeling lonely. It's when you're feeling dehydrated, drinking salt water. It might feel good initially, and all it does is lead her to more and more magnified just loneliness, which you kind of talked a little bit about.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with everything you said. And there's an interesting point too. I was just talking with a mom of 4 kids, great person. We talk with a lot of our parents. She said something really interesting that I think you and I'd love to get your feedback on. She said, Josh, in the 90s and early 2000s, before social media was a thing, On TV, there were no cuss words. There were no 4-letter words. Everything was vetted. And in fact, there was no cigarettes on TV. I don't think that's allowed ever. There's alcohol in there, but everything was carefully curated. So when we grew up in the 90s or whatever, or the early 2000s before the iPhone, we didn't hear very many 4-letter words. And it was, you could sit in front of a TV. And nowadays with YouTube, it's a very different world, right? With Fortnite, there's a lot of 4-letter words for kids to absorb. We become what we eat and what we absorb. And then also on YouTube, there's very inappropriate stuff that you're seeing that might be adult-like or dangerous. What would you tell parents? I mean, I love what you said. I like this conversation. Parents pull away for teens, but they should be more intentional in those ages, right? Like really honing. Yeah, you can have some freedom, but let's really monitor what you're doing. What would you say to parents about the difference between when they grew up in the 2000s or late 90s or whatever versus nowadays what their kids can see online?
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to that whole, one of our chief roles as, again, a parent, a grandparent, a teacher, a responsible adult that has some level of influence on the life of a child. It is just protect their innocence at all costs. Safety, delivering a child safely through childhood to young adulthood, and then helping to launch them successfully into the rest of their lives. That is our chief mission. I mean, that is at the heart of what we should be doing. And I will tell a little instructive, little lesson with my grandbabies. We have a pool and we've got a bunch of budding swimmers and non-swimmers. And the first thing I teach them are where to locate the sides, the seats, and the stairs. And why those things? Because that is when you get yourself in danger. If you can get yourself to a seat or a side or the stairs, you can get yourself to safety. And it feels like we live in a society that keeps wanting to take away and remove the absolutes, the things you referenced that were part of, the FCC and what we could do and what we couldn't do. And things were curated in a way that they weren't so enticing. The message was the message, not all these other advertisement thing going on. And we've got a society that is just bent on removing the sides, the seats, and the stairs of the pool that we are having kids swim in called society. And when you take away the safeties and you throw the kid in that pool and there is no way to escape, some kids can swim well, some can tread water for a long time, and we have way too many drowning victims because we are not doing our job as adults being adult.
Yeah. Wow. Way to tie it home. Way to tie it in. I absolutely love that. Hey, Superintendent, thank you for taking the time out today to join us.
My pleasure. It's been great being with you. And parents, keep it up out there. Your kids are worth it. And if you're not fighting for them, other people are, and you've got the best intents, and others may be suspect. So fight for the ones you love.
So true. To all of our listeners, again, whether you're a parent, a guardian, a superintendent, or anyone in between, we love you staff members as well. We're here for you at Smart Social. We keep kids safe on social media so they can be successful in the walls of your home and in the walls of school so that someday they can shine online. That's what we want you to help them do to get that dream job, career, and everything else when they're 25 and doing amazing things and you're proud of them. That's our dream in the future. Hey, parents, always remember to keep it light, bright, and polite when you're posting online because your kids are watching what we're doing online and we're trying to model great behavior. I'm Josh Oakes, the host of the SmartSocial.com podcast. I'll see all of you on the next episode. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for listening to the SmartSocial.com podcast. Smart Social helps parents understand technology and social media to keep their kids safe and successful. Be sure to join one of our weekly online live events to become the smartest parent on the block so you can keep your kids safe and protect their future. Also, don't miss our 450 plus online resources and replays you can watch on demand in multiple languages. Are you a school district wanting to unlock these resources for your parents? Reach out to us so we can protect your whole community each week. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next episode.